It seems everywhere you go these days, there is a push to get Canadians double vaccinated with the COVID shot. We have been told that the jab comes with a whole spectrum of benefits, from reducing symptom severity to even reducing viral load. Provinces are so eager to get everyone double vaxxed that many are now introducing vaccine passports, meaning if you got the COVID shot, then you will get to able to access the places that non-jabbed Canadians do not. But many, including myself, are decrying that this is going to cause a two-tier society, that those, for whatever reason, who choose not to receive the COVID injections are having their rights and freedoms severely limited. Some Canadians are even facing getting fired if they do not get the vaccine. Remember Dr. Julie Ponesse, the ethics professor from Western University I had on a few weeks back? Well, she was recently fired from the university for not submitting to the vaccine mandate. We'll be hearing from her later on in the show. So is any of this really helping us combat the COVID virus? Does the COVID vaccine passport actually help those who are, as they're called, vaccine hesitant? And does it really matter? If someone chooses not to get the shot, is that such a big deal, and why? Are mandates really the path forward? Do they help or hinder doctor-patient trust in society? Well, joining me now to share his perspective is physician Dr. Shawn Whatley, author, past president of the Ontario Medical Association, and a Monk Senior Fellow at the Macdonald-Laurier Institute. Thank you so much for joining me today, Dr. Whatley. I'm happy to have you back on.
Thank you.
This is a very serious discussion, and I'm glad to have a medical doctor on to kind of help unpack this all. But I guess the overarching question is really, are mandates the best way to approach COVID?
So great question. Mandates, at least the way I consider them, are one particular policy tool in a whole large toolkit of things that we can do to approach a pandemic. So you think about testing, contact tracing, isolation, quarantine. And so when you get to mandates, I think we would need a framework to say, why do we need mandates right now? Are hospitalizations going through the roof? Are deaths going through the roof? Have we failed a period or a trial of voluntary vaccination? Are our most vulnerable patients going unvaccinated? Well, actually, all those things are not the case. So although some people take a principled resistance against any kind of mandate, I think it seems reasonable to say, well, why do you need it now? And let's take a prudential approach. So based on the current evidence and circumstances, is this going to get us where we need to go? What is the goal of this policy?
So that's an interesting way to put it. And I might fall into that latter category as a person who just doesn't like being forced into anything and doesn't like mandating of anything. But like many Canadians out there, I'm also a reasonable Canadian. I think things and I have logic, and I reasonably do a risk-benefit analysis, and what are the numbers saying, and what is the right response? So I guess then my question is, are we actually losing the battle with COVID, and is that the impetus to bring in a mandate? Are the deaths and hospitalizations, are they climbing?
Well, it seems like we are not losing the battle compared to how things were last spring or even last fall. So wave 1, 2, and 3, we are actually doing much better now. Now, that's not to say we discount everything. We still need to be vigilant and protect our most vulnerable, et cetera. But you talked about being resistant to being told what to do. I think many people feel the same. And instead of creating laws or forcing people to do it, I think we'll get better success through relationship. Any of us who are parents know that making a rule doesn't necessarily get the outcomes you hoped for. And certainly, at least with my patients, when they are worried about whether it's vaccines or taking statin drugs for their cholesterol, they're worried for a reason. And the best way to deal with that is to sit down with them and say, what's worrying you? Why are you hesitant? What's going through your mind? What have you heard? Right. And simply making a rule may make them be resistant to all the other vaccines that could help them as well.
And I've heard this argument from various doctors' groups suggesting that, well, the frontline administration of the vaccine really ought to have been through the general practitioners. Now, dealing with the sheer numbers that the government wanted to achieve, I don't know how that would have been possible. But we have 30 seconds before we go to commercial. But do you think that would have helped to have the doctors been that frontline administrators of the vaccine so that conversation could have happened?
Well, it depends if you're talking about the therapeutic relationship or the implementation itself. Certainly, given the cold storage and tracking, it would have been a huge administrative load.
Right.
So I'm glad the government took over it. But as far as the relationship goes, maybe we can unpack that after the break.